Hello, my name is Zahira. Today I would like to present about the Fortress of Luxury, the role effective import and export management in global trade. My case study for this is actually Louis Vuitton. Today we are exploring the pivotal role of effective import-export management in global trade. Import-export management is the strategic orchestration of the global sourcing and exporting. For multinational corporations, mastering this operation is non-negotiable. It directly fosters cost reduction, supply chain and responsiveness, and a dominant market presence. To demonstrate this concept in action, we will analyze Louis Vuitton, the flagship brand of LVMH, operating in over 80 countries with a staggering £86.2 billion in revenue in 2023. LVMH is a masterclass in a global trade execution. In this presentation, I will detail how their competitive advantage is sustained through meticulous management of trade regulation, logistics, financial framework, and also multiple dimensional risk mitigation. Navigating global trade regulation is critical, particularly for luxury brands where compliance safeguards both legal standing and intellectual property. A foundation element is accurate product classification using a harmonized system, which is a HS codes. The World Customs Organization oversees this system, which classifies over 98% of global traded merchandises. To avoid these severe fines and reputational damage for misclassification, LVMH especially embeds dedicated custom compliance team in all major markets. Free trade agreement (FTAs) also provide massive strategic leverage. A prime example is the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement, which is EVFTA. The agreements eliminates 99% of tariff between the EU and Vietnam over a decade, drastically improving the cost effectiveness of Louis Vuitton's export into a booming Southeast Asian market while allowing them to maintain their prestigious made in France manufacturing status. Furthermore, LVMH used rigorous due diligence screening to comply with dynamic export controls, such as the sanction following the 2022 invasion of Ukraine, which required swift temporary store closures in Russia. Next, I will talk about the logistics and the supply chain management. So basically, logistics dictate how a brand value proposition reaches the consumer. Louis Vuitton centralized its production in Western Europe, primarily France, Italy, Spain, and Switzerland, to protect its heritage quality. This means almost all products must be shipped internationally to its network of over 460 global stores. To execute this, they use a highly calibrated hybrid transformation model. For example, high-value finished goods are flown via air freight to maximize speed, meet seasonal fashion deadline, and minimize the theft. Conversely, for bulky raw materials like animal hide sources from France and Italy are shipped via cost-effective ocean freight. To manage this complex network, LVMH partnered with first-tier freight forwarders like DHL and Geodis, utilizing consolidation centers and bonded warehouse in hubs like Hong Kong and Dubai. Crucially, Louis Vuitton uses International Chamber of Commerce, which is ICC Intercoms, in 2020 to strategically manage costs and risk. When shipping to their own boutiques, they use delivery duty pay, which is DDP, to maintain absolute control over the supply chain and brand presentation. When dealing with wholesale clients, they shift risk from using the cost insurance and freight, which is a CIF, or deliver at place, which is DAP. Next, I'm going to talk about the financial consideration and payment methods. The financial architecture of LVMH Trade is designed to secure cash flow over 80 plus countries. Because LVMH largely supplies its own internal retail network, they bypass the traditional letters of credit, which are standard for unfamiliar trading partners, and instead of using the intercompany transfer pricing and transaction. However, to support the critical network of small artisan suppliers who handcraft their goods, LVMH utilizes supply chain financing and reverse factoring. This ensures their craftsmen have the necessary working capital to maintain the production quality. A massive financial risk they manage in foreign exchange volatility. Production costs are in euros, but revenue comes in US dollar, Chinese renminbi, and Japanese yen. For example, the severe depreciation of the yen in 2022 until 2023 severely impacted the purchasing power of Japanese consumers. To encounter this, LVMH financial policy aggressively hedged net foreign currency exposure using the complex forward exchange contracts and options. Next, risk management in export-import operation. Operating globally exposed Louis Vuitton, a brand value at 104 billion US dollar in 2003, to extreme risk. Political risk is a concentrate. In 2020, the US proposed 25% Section 301 tariff on French handbags and wine in retaliation to a French digital service tax. Through suspended, this highlights the necessity of monitoring geopolitical trade policy as an enterprise risk management tool. To counter supply chain risks like a raw material shortage, Louis Vuitton employs deep vertical integration. Instead of relying on vulnerable external suppliers, they purchase the French tannery, Hanlong, and specific Cordelia farms, securing absolute control over exotic leather quality and traceability. The most unrelated threat in the 509 billion US dollar global counterfeiting industry, Louis Vuitton deploys a sophisticated multi-layered defense, registering IP with customs in over 100 countries, implementing digital track and trace authentication on packaging, utilizing and notice takedown policy with major online retailers like Alibaba and Amazon. Finally, they backstop their physical shipment with specialized marine cargo insurance under the Institute Cargo clauses and political risk insurance to entities like Lloyd's of London. In conclusion, Louis Vuitton's global dominance proved that effective import-export management is not just back-end operational necessity, it is an indivisible part of the brand strategy itself. Their success is the result of uniting regulatory compliance, logistical excellence, financial discipline, and proactive risk management. Based on this analysis, businesses looking to optimize their global trade operation must implement several key recommendations. First, deploy real-time compliant tech. Invest in dedicated platforms that track regulatory changes stimulating across the all operation market. Second, weaponize the intercom. Treat intercom not as standard boilerplate contracts but as dynamic tools for financial allocation and risk management. Third, systematic FX hedging. Implementing structured currency risk management using tailored forward contracts and options align the revenue and cost exposure. Fourth, architect supply chain resilience, diversity geographic supply bases, aggressively manage inventory buffers, and integrates upstream inputs vertically. And lastly, enforce IP globally. Build active multi-layer intellectual property enforcement program directly into the export strategy, particularly in the high-risk market. So that's all from me, and thank you for listening.